guys, Josh from SoccerReviewsForYou.com, bringing you my review plus on-feet video of the Nike Hypervenom Phatal 2 DF in the latest Electro Flare colorway. Now inside the box, all you get are the shoes themselves. They do not come with any extras. So let me get these guys out of the box really quickly, and we'll take a closer look at what is technically the first takedown model in the Hypervenom line, below the two top-end shoes, the Hypervenom Phantom 2, as well as the Hypervenom Finish. So in today's video, we are of course going to take a closer look at the colorway itself. We're going to go over tech specs, we're going to take a look at the weight of the shoe, as well as talk about how these things fit and feel on feet. So if you are interested in learning more about this particular colorway of the Phatal 2 DF, please stick around, watch the entire video. If you're interested in a pair of these for yourself, be sure to check out the review page on my website. That'll be the very first link down below in the description of this video. On that page, you will find Buy It Now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes, where you'll be able to pick these guys up below their normal $170 retail price. So again, if you're interested in a pair, first link down below, go ahead and check it out. And with that being said, let's get right into the review. To start things off, let's take a closer look at the colorway. Now, of course, this shoe being part of the Electro Flare pack, it does have that Volt Yellow paint splatter graphic across the upper. Unlike the Phantom 2 in the same colorway that I have right here, the sole plate isn't exactly the same. You can see on the Phantom 2, you actually get that paint splatter graphic continued across the entire sole plate, and the actual lip that you can see attaching to the upper is black as opposed to just being solid Volt Yellow like you find here on the Phatal 2 DF. So that's a major kind of giveaway in terms of visual differences between the top end model and this takedown model. The collars look very similar, although they're made from different materials, having that kind of weave of black as well as purple, and then it doesn't have the same Volt Yellow mid layer again like you're going to find on the Phantom 2. It's pretty much just purple and black with none of the Volt Yellow detailing. The upper is a purple, which stands out really nicely. It's a really nice shade of purple in my opinion. But again, unlike the Phantom 2, which has kind of a color changing effect where it looks like a purplish blue depending on how the light hits the shoe, this is pretty much just a straight up purple with kind of like a semi-gloss finish. That still looks good, don't get me wrong. You have the Volt Yellow outline for the Nike swoosh at the front as well as on the back of the shoe. And then of course the Hypervenom graphic there that's black with the Volt Yellow paint splatter that you can see throughout the entire graphic on both sides of the upper. So that's pretty much it in terms of the visuals of the Hypervenom Phatal 2 DF. Let me know what you guys think of them down below in the comment section. Do you like how these look? Why or why not? I'm actually a big fan of the purple, but with that out of the way, let's move on next to the tech specs so we can learn a little bit more about the overall performance. As far as performance is concerned, the Hypervenom Phatal 2 DF is a pretty decent performer. With that being said, considering it does have a $170 retail price, there's a couple things you need to consider before pulling the trigger on a pair of Phatal 2 DFs. If you want to stay within the Hypervenom line and bang for your buck is what you're looking for, you just want the absolute best value, you're better off going for the standard variation of the Phatal 2 as opposed to the DF model that of course has the mid-cut design that at the end of the day, it really doesn't offer any performance benefits whatsoever. So instead of $170 for the Phatal 2 DF, you can get the exact same shoe minus the collar for $130 in the standard Phatal 2, which, like I said, is the better bang for your buck value at the end of the day. And at $170, if you're already going to spend that much money on a pair of shoes, you might as well spend the extra $30 and get the top of the line Hypervenom Finish. Again, it doesn't have the mid-cut design, but the overall quality of the shoe, especially the upper, I would argue is a lot nicer. And if you don't want to stick within the Hypervenom line, at $170, you have lots and lots of options. So really, the main reason why you would want to pick this shoe up is one, you want a pair of Hypervenoms, and two, you want something with that mid-cut design, but you don't necessarily have the budget for the top-end Phantom 2. That retails for $105 more than the Phatal 2 DF. So that would be the reasoning on how you would go about picking the Phatal 2 DF over pretty much everything else out there, other Hypervenom models included. So what are you actually getting for your $170 price tag? Because that is pretty expensive for a pair of takedown shoes. The upper is a Mirage synthetic. It's not the same Nike skin material you're gonna find on the Finish or Phantom 2. In comparison to those models, you'll actually find that this synthetic is softer, more flexible, and doesn't necessarily change the overall feel of the shoe in terms of how it fits on your foot. Obviously, it's not quite as stiff from right out of the box. And even after some break-in time, it does feel more flexible and arguably even a little bit more comfortable than the higher end models in the Hypervenom line, but it's not quite as thin and doesn't provide quite the same kind of locked-in sensation, very, very solid feel that you get from those higher end models. So it's very close, but it's not exactly the same. So are you really missing out on much? Not really, but again, I think that ultimately you do get a better experience from the higher end shoes. But again, if you want something that's going to provide a thin, kind of closer to barefoot type of touch and feel on the ball, this is definitely going to provide that for you. You do have similar kind of embossed texturing in the actual upper itself that really has minimal impact on the overall feel for the ball. They do include the Flywire cable system, which is really, really nice. You have it on both the lateral and medial side, as you would find on the actual high-end models as well. Runs from the base of the sole into the lacing system, so when you pull those laces tight, it helps to secure your foot in place and prevents the actual upper from stretching from side to side. So when you're making quick cuts and turns, again, you're getting that nice responsive one-to-one sensation. As far as the back of the shoe is concerned, you do have an internal heel counter. Of course, this does have a mid-cut design with what looks to be Flyknit in the collar as well as the center portion of the shoe, but it isn't actually Flyknit. It's just an elasticated material. It looks a lot like Flyknit, especially in this particular colorway, because they did do the purple and black mix within the actual knitted material itself. But I can definitely assure you that in hand, especially when you have the Phantom 2 and the Phatal 2 DF side by side, the Flyknit collar on the high-end model is significantly better quality, or at least just feels a lot more premium than this particular material. This material is not cheap. It just, like I said, isn't as nice as what you're going to get with the top-end model, which is kind of to be expected. But I will say the general experience of actually wearing a mid-cut shoe is very similar whether you buy this one or a more expensive $275 mid-cut model from Nike. Moving on to the inside of the shoe, it does have a smooth synthetic leather heel liner, again, as you'd find on the other mid-cut models from the brand. The insole, fully removable mesh liner on top, and it's made from a single layer of this ortholite foam. Pretty much the exact same insole you will find on the higher end models, so that is a nice little inclusion. And then moving on to the sole plate and stud pattern, while the sole plate isn't quite as nicely decorated as what you're going to find on the Phantom 2, it's exactly the same. So it's a compressed nylon material, has some decent flexibility to it, but still good stiffness through the midfoot. And then of course you do get the Hypervenom stud pattern that features pretty much all conical studs, aside from a couple bladed studs in the middle of the forefoot as well as at the tip of the toe. The studs themselves are fairly narrow in profile, so they dig into the ground quite nicely despite their rounded shape. So you get more bite than you might expect from this type of a stud pattern. And again, because of the rounded shape, you're never locked in place. You get that freedom to twist and pivot. And overall, it just works really, really good. Reminds me a lot of what you get from the Mercurials, but just slightly less aggressive because the studs are rounded as opposed to bladed. So it's just a different type of feel that ultimately you will get used to with pretty much any new shoe. There aren't many stud patterns out there at the moment that quite honestly aren't very good. This one gets the job done. No real complaints in that department. So that's pretty much it in terms of what you're getting for your $170 with the Hypervenom Phatal 2 DF. If you really want a mid-cut shoe from Nike, this is the cheapest way of getting it, but is it the best value for your $170? The answer to that question is quite simply no. In terms of weight, I thought we'd compare the top-end Hypervenom Phantom 2 to the Phatal 2 DF to see if there's any significant weight difference between the two models. So keep in mind these are both in brand new condition and both the exact same size 9 US, so this is a very fair comparison. We'll start off with the Phantom 2, throw it on the scale, and you can see that they weigh in at 7.5 ounces, the equivalent of 213 grams. Change the scale back to ounces, remember those numbers, and we'll throw on the Phatal 2 DF, again, brand new condition, size 9 US, and you can see that they weigh in at 7.4 ounces, the equivalent of 209 grams. So you're talking about a weight difference of 0.1 ounces, which is fairly insignificant. Yes, the Phatal 2 DF is technically a little bit lighter, but at 0.1 ounces, it's not an amount of weight you're going to notice either in hand or on feet. So again, if you're trying to decide between the top-end Phantom 2 and the takedown Phatal 2 DF to save yourself that $105, weight should not be a deciding factor. They're both pretty light. They both feel fairly similar on feet, but the better quality shoe overall is the top-end Phantom 2. Just keep that in mind. All right, so here is a look at the Phatal 2 DFs on feet. On my left foot, I have the stock purple laces that come with the shoes. And on my right foot, I have a pair of neon yellow with black dots SR4U replacement laces. If you're interested in a pair of replacement laces for yourself, be sure to check out the website www.sr4ulaces.com. You'll find a direct link to that website down below in the description of this video. Now, in terms of how these things fit and feel on feet, they are pretty comfortable from right out of the box. Again, the upper does feel slightly thicker and a little bit more flexible than what you're going to get from the top end Nike Skin upper on the higher end models. But for the most part, just like any of the mid-cut models from Nike, they take some getting used to, especially if you haven't worn one before. Just the way that it wraps your heel, it fits a little bit differently and isn't necessarily uncomfortable, but like I said, you need to break them in slowly, really take your time with them in order to avoid any kind of issues with blistering or discomfort. If you wear these straight into a game or straight into a shooting session or something like that, you're going to experience issues, but again, if you take your time with it, you shouldn't have too many problems. The upper, like I said, feels pretty flexible from right out of the box. It is a firmer sensation overall though, but like I said, in comparison to the Phantom 2, they do feel a little bit more flexible from the get-go. In regards to the shape of the shoe and the general width, they're going to be suitable for most people. They're definitely not narrow by any means, but the upper is not going to stretch, mainly due to the synthetic material, like I said, being a little bit firmer, as well as the flywire cables through the midfoot and forefoot area that aren't going to expand whatsoever. So the way these things fit from right out of the box is the way they're going to fit for their entire lifespan. So if you really struggle with the width of your shoes, probably not the best option for you. In regards to sizing, I'm wearing my usual size 9 US here, and the fit and the length is absolutely perfect. So if you are looking to order a pair of these for yourself, I would strongly recommend going true to size in order to achieve the best possible fit. All right, guys, that is it for my review of the Hypervenom Phatal 2DF in the Electro Flare colorway. Again, if you are looking for more information on this particular shoe, be sure to check out the review page on my website. That'll be the very first link down below in the description of this video. On that page, you'll find the high quality images of this exact pair that I took myself. That'll give you a better idea as to how these actually do look in person, as well as buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes, where you'll be able to pick these up below their normal $170 retail price. So again, if you're interested in a pair, first link down below, go ahead and check it out. If you have any questions at all regarding this particular shoe, leave them down below in the comment section. I definitely will get an answer out to you. If you enjoyed today's video, found it helpful and informative, be sure to support it with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all my social media information down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. And as always, thanks for watching.